I'm Wes Rades, Bay Nature's Executive Director, and it's my great pleasure to warmly welcome you to Bay Nature's 15th Annual Local Hero Awards. To begin by acknowledging the obvious, it is certainly an interesting moment, an extraordinary time to be convening this local environmental community, when federal actions in Washington are creating real consequences for conservation, biodiversity, and climate resiliency here where we live. We want our celebration today to be two things. We want it to be a reprieve from those headlines. We also want it to be an opportunity for us to talk together about how we work to meet this moment. We'll do both. If you're meeting us for the first time today, Bay Nature is a nonprofit, independent media organization devoted to environmental journalism covering the San Francisco Bay Area. We publish the award-winning Bay Nature magazine and produce events that bring our stories to life. These programs are a foundation for transformation and community. So if you're seeking a deeper connection with nature, with each other, with yourself, you've certainly found your people here today. Welcome. We want to motivate you all to solve our most pressing problems with nature in mind. And we frankly stand in awe of the actions that all of you in this room take. So I want to start today by a show of hands. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and I want you to keep your hands raised as we go through this. So could you raise your hand, first of all, if you conduct scientific research? Okay. Could you keep your hands raised, and would you raise your hands too if you work for nature with a public agency, a local government, or a nonprofit organization? Yep. Would you raise your hands if you teach others about the environment? Yep. Would you raise your hands if you volunteer for a creek, a park, a forest near you? Would you raise your hand if you donate to environmental causes or write to your elected officials? Yeah. So listen, before we go any further recognizing our honorees today, I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for everything that you do for our natural world. Thank you very much. Come on in. Right on. So part of what makes today's Local Hero Awards so special is that we're recognizing 4 leaders among us whose achievements highlight all of our efforts to make local nature part of everyday life. Gathering each year at the Local Hero Awards reminds us that there's nature everywhere. It's common ground that binds us. So let's get started. A day like today doesn't happen without the contributions of many different supporters. And so first I'd like to recognize all of our lead sponsors. And you're gonna have to bear with me for a moment because this is gonna take a second. There are an awful lot of them. I wanna thank the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria, Semper Virens Fund, Bioneers, Civicor, the Elkhorn Slough Foundation, McGuire and Hester, the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, Peninsula Open Space Trust, the Sonoma Land Trust, the East Bay Regional Park District, the Gardens of Golden Gate Park, Green Foothills, Land Paths, the Sonoma Botanical Garden, San Francisco State University, the Growing Natives Garden Tour, Save the Redwoods League, and Roses on Adeline, along with Nancy and Bart Westcott, Diane Talbert, you're gonna have to wait, I'm almost there, Jorgen Hildebrand, and Barbara Bessie. So I wanna thank all of our sponsors. Can you believe it? There are 49 of them. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you very much. So next, I want to recognize Bay Nature's dedicated board, who so generously contribute their time, their professional expertise, their relationships, and financial resources to our mission. Would Bay Nature's board members, including our 4 new board members, please raise their hands so that we can recognize you? Wonderful. Welcome. And next, Bay Nature's tireless staff. They are journalists and event coordinators, artists and fundraisers. They produce everything that you love so much about Bay Nature, and they're the reason why I love coming to work every day. So would Bay Nature's staff please raise your hands? And so as I do each year, I've saved my last appreciation for all of you, our Bay Nature community. This is, if you'll allow me to compliment you, a smart, engaged, and passionate community working so hard to solve complicated challenges with no easy solutions. We are honored to stand alongside you to contribute. And so even as we recognize leaders among us, they are Susan Schwartz, Annie Burke, Maria Ramos, and Avro Shaw, we also celebrate all of us around us here in the area who make local nature and environmental issues tangible parts of everyday life. So we're sold out for the third consecutive year. Thank you for that. And we've got an absolutely great afternoon planned for you. So please sit back, relax, enjoy yourselves, be inspired. And so now I'm excited to kick off this year's Local Hero Awards by introducing you to Bay Nature's excellent Editor-in-Chief, Victoria Schlesinger. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, it's great to be here. Ooh. How's that? All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Victoria Schlesinger, editor of Bay Nature. This is our 15th year celebrating local heroes. And when we're not doing this, this is our peak moment each year, right? When we're not doing this, every quarter, every season, we are publishing a print magazine. And every week, we are publishing stories on baynature.org. Our articles are written and reported by journalists, experts, artists, writers, and they are all writing about nature in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. That is all we do. In the latest issue, I don't have it on me, but in the latest issue, we have reported on things like Western grebes mating rituals. We have reported on new research about sperm whales. We have profiles of the 4 heroes that we're here celebrating today. That is just a sample of the kind of reporting we do if you are new to Bay Nature. We also increasingly are reporting on what is happening with the federal government and its impacts on local nature. Just last week, we published a piece by Tanvi Dutta-Gupta, who you'll hear from a little later, one of our fellows, on the dismantling of the National Environmental Protection Act. So the same journalists and writers who we hire to write these stories then go on to be part of our Bay Nature Talks. That is an online, via Zoom opportunity for folks to come together, ask questions of the journalists, of the experts, have a conversation, really get in deep on these. And then we also offer, again, based off those same articles and with those journalists and experts, we then offer in-person experiences. So for example, in our latest issue, we have a story about a new addition to the Berryessa Snow Mountain National Monument, so way up north. And we're gonna take a hike there at the end of May. So we try to have this, we try to give you ways to read, talk, and visit and experience these places and issues we're talking about. So we are in our 25th year of publishing. That is, that is not a small accomplishment. And we have earned a reputation over those 25 years for our in-depth reporting. We go deep. We reference experts to produce journalism that nobody else is going to do. And we go to great lengths to make sure that what we publish is accurate. We put a lot of time and money into that process because we want you all to be able to trust what you read at Bay Nature and know that, wow, if you see something that is inaccurate, email me, tell me. We want to know, we want to make it right. So we take that privilege really seriously. We are also an independent and inclusive organization. What I mean by that, we are an independent journalistic entity. We are not beholden to any company, any organization, any product. We are doing independent journalism, and that matters increasingly because people who care about the Bay Area's nature have a lot of different opinions and ideas about how to care for it. And that's really important, that an independent media organization can provide the platform in which all of those ideas, all of those perspectives are welcome and can be heard. So we are a place, we are an organization that welcomes a variety of life experiences that are informed by people's education, their access to wealth, their culture, their language, their skin color, their physical ability, their gender, their sexual orientation, and their age. We are a publication that welcomes people from all perspectives. And it's important that we do. It's important that people have a place where they can have civil discourse and disagree. So we're in difficult times. And having that place where we can disagree is more important than ever. I certainly don't need to tell folks in this room that Bay Area nature and people who care about nature are facing a lot of challenges. What we've heard in our reporting is that people are experiencing funding loss, they're experiencing job losses, a loss of knowing how to plan, right? There's just so much chaos, it is really hard to know how to move forward when you don't know what's coming next. There's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fear that diversity, equity, and inclusion will no longer be a priority. There's a lot of fear of being named and targeted. There's also a lot of sadness and anger about what all of this means for the natural world, for addressing climate change, biodiversity, clean air, water, land, and all the people who work to care for it. We here, Kate, Tanvi, Jillian, and I, reporters, editors, all the reporters that we hire are here to listen to you about those experiences and report on them. We're also hearing in our reporting that there is hope, there's energy to fight, a feeling that this is the Bay Area, this is California, we know how to do this, we have overcome challenges in the past, and I want to note that yesterday, I know some of you were out protesting in Berkeley, in the Bay Area, nationwide, more than 500,000 people turned out to express their opinions about this administration. Yeah. So now I'd like to move on to the main show here, which is our heroes. And I have the real honor to introduce Susan Schwartz. She is the president of Friends of Five Creeks. It's an all-volunteer citizen group that helps care for creeks and watersheds throughout the East Bay, largely through hands-on work. Susan has been president for 27 years and is a fixture in East Bay conservation. Susan's life is, and it appears has always been, guided by service. She was a journalist in her early days, starting out in Alaska, then working at the Seattle Times, becoming an editor with Knight Ridder. And I'm here to tell you that journalism is a service, so thank you, Susan. She and her spouse raised 2 kids in Berkeley. All the parents and grandparents here know raising kids is a service. And in doing that, she involved her kids in organizing a community garden, caring for a part of Cordonices Creek in Berkeley. And I want to personally thank you, Susan, because that is where my kid grew up playing in a creek, is in Cordonices. In her own words, Susan says she has been incredibly lucky. But today, we are here to acknowledge how incredibly lucky all of us are to have Susan contributing to East Bay conservation through her speaking up, getting out, and being fully engaged in the hands-on work of caring for place. So it is my honor, on behalf of Bay Nature, to present our 2025 Community Hero Award to Susan Schwartz.
Thank you so much. Mulling over what to say here, I asked some people what they thought Friends of Five Creeks could contribute over these 29 years, since the group was founded by Sonia Wadman, an AmeriCorps volunteer hired by the city of Albany back in the mid-90s heyday of reviving urban creeks. I came along by chance when Sonia was headed for graduate school. By the way, it now runs a prominent land trust in New England. My children no longer needed so much of my time, and the rest of the story is way too complicated to even begin. But big parts of what I see as our strength have been openness to opportunities and developing the ideas of others. Here's an example. Friends of Five Creeks really became an effective organization because Todd Jersey, a local architect and fabulous cheerleader, persuaded me that in just a few weekends, we could build a bridge railing at Cordonices Creek on the Lonely Greenway, and he would design it for free. Well, it took a lot more than a few weekends, but we cut the pavement and tied the rebar and poured the concrete, and you can go see it. Along the way, Todd noticed that there were trout in the creek, and I really didn't believe him. These turned out to include steelhead. Protecting them is still a big part of what we try to do. Their fate is highly uncertain in our only local trout stream. This has been a big, messy group effort by neighbors, firms, students, and a board that all got their hands dirty. I wish, and I apologize that I can't acknowledge them all. The greatest joys have been when people who might never meet in daily life come together and do something. And conversely, my biggest mistakes have all been when I tried to impose my solutions. None of us has answers. I see Friends of Five Creeks as one of many streamlets that flowed from the vision and political groundwork of Doug Wolf, Gary Mason, Carol Schemmerling, Ann Riley in the Urban Creeks Council in 1980s Berkeley and Richmond. The waves they made reached Napa's revitalized downtown that no longer floods, 9 Mile River unearthed from a slag heap in Pittsburgh, and a freeway replaced by a park flank river in Seoul, South Korea, and many more. Now here at home, these pioneers built a framework of creek policies and grants to support their dream of creeks as green threads in the urban fabric. Now they, though, were reviving ideas of illustrious planners hired and widely disregarded in California's boom and bust growth after the gold rush. Very few ideas are new. Friends of Five Creeks has had a lot of both fun and joy. In our less glamorous role, we have been the unpaid janitors in more or less natural areas that had become unwelcoming or dangerous. I see us as helping out and sometimes speaking out where visions met harsh reality. Harsh reality includes projects undertaken based on a few truths without understanding the complexities of nature or people. It includes our cumbersome, costly, and ultimately irresponsible scaffold of grants, consultants, and regulations. It includes failure to recognize maintenance needs and costs, as well as democracy shifts in fashion and priorities. It includes urban complications, from thoughtless litter to our failures with mental illness and homelessness, and now a fast-changing world of drought, deluges, and devastating fires. In our role as skeptical janitors, success is when areas welcome people and a reasonable diversity of native plants and wildlife. It's when larger entities or individuals or groups take over, providing affordable maintenance. It's also a society that cultivates opportunities for people to contribute, work together, and carry out their positive ideas far beyond making comments or donating money, as important as those are. Our social capital and democracy need this. So getting back to where I started, what have we contributed? Some places where we've worked are now reasonably stable and welcoming urban oases. You can stroll Lower Surrey Creek or Berkeley's Little Mortar Rock Park, a gem of native plant biodiversity and human use. Shorebird Park's bay shore is no longer blocked off by brush. And on a larger scale, French broom is no longer the most visible plant in large parts of Tilden Regional Park's most popular areas. After our early, really big work parties in the North Basin Strip, John Kenny from our board and a handful of people have transformed that shoreline into a colorful welter of native plants that should be a lab for what is possible on the other garbage dumps lining the bay shore. Local groups are taking over in the El Cerrito Hillside Natural Area, 100 acres of fire-prone nature, where we controlled a powder keg of broom over more than a decade, but that is not finished. A couple of independents, Alfredo Chinquanco and Pavel Moldenhauer, take responsibility and find creative solutions for much of Codornices Creek west of San Pablo, along with Albany's wildlands manager, Margot Cunningham, and interns from disadvantaged backgrounds. Now, all this comes with failure. Like everybody who's done this for a while, we have abandoned projects. We've had years of work wiped out and our hearts broken. Currently, storms, erosion, and salt intrusion are destroying what we thought we had achieved at the mouth of Strawberry Creek in East Shore State Park. But physical places may not be our most important contributions. One of our board members suggested it might be awareness of plants we labeled invasives. There is no such thing as a bad plant, but pretty little Algerian sea lavender sneaks in under other salt marsh dwellers and overwhelms them. Bindweed and Cape ivy wall off creeks and hog the soil and light. And this is not to mention the plants that become tinder or torches. Of course, this is part of the broad stream of effort from the California Invasive Plant Council down to what I'll call the leprechauns, the people who work close to alone, doing probably more than you know to rein in plants that don't play well with others in our public places. Now, many have observed that volunteers looking at reporting can be more valuable than their immediate task. For example, before I joined Friends of Five Creeks, a grad student pioneered water quality monitoring on Cerrito Creek. When they saw the gunk flush down Cerrito Creek, that led to significant changes in mud practices, not the only time we've done that. Like a lot of what was done in the big early wave of creek groups, those methods and materials are now deprecated, outlawed, or fenced off with expensive permits. I used to lead a lot of nature walks, from wild edibles to king tides. King tides are something we pioneered, but there are lots more walks now, Bay Nature among them. We still do a fair amount of citizen science, using frameworks not ideal for the purpose, to build baseline data for climate change. It's hard to know if this will have any ultimate value. We took over Cindy Springs' wonderful talk series when she aged out and ran it for 6 years until COVID shut it down. I like to think that Bay Nature talks are now carrying that torch far and wide with post-COVID technology. Lacking evidence, I take on faith that if we influence for good those thousands of volunteers getting down and dirty in nature, what is the value of planting a plant with your children? Of working your office frustrations on the weeds, of us old folks getting exercise and company and still achieving. I joke that the most important thing we do is teach young folks to use tools. I am deeply grateful to the Scout leaders and blue-collar workers who taught me the very little I know about those things. People of all kinds want to contribute, and our democracy needs them to do this. It's important that people come together independently, work out how to do something, and get it done. Let's cultivate ways for them to do it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kate Golden, Senior Editor at Bay Nature. Now, Annie Burke, most of you probably already know her because she is one of the great connectors, which means I can keep this short. In 2019, Annie helped transform the Bay Area Open Space Council into Together Bay Area. And as an executive director, she has been expanding its work to build coalitions around climate resilience and equity. Yes, okay, what does this mean? If you've ever been to the Together Bay Area Annual Conference, which is coming up next month, you have a sense of it. There you encounter a standard mix of conservation strategizing and science and bicycle field trips to wetlands. But unlike most conferences, it is also, I have observed, a place where weirdly people talk about community and even love in an open and earnest way. And if you are a grizzled old journalist who prizes your independence, you walk away from that conference not drained, but with this feeling that you're part of a group that's doing something worthwhile in the world, collectively. You know that old yes and approach. It's borrowed from the improvisers. That underpins Annie's whole philosophy, and the conference really embodies it. Annie recognizes that along with the bread and butter work of acquiring and protecting land, we must transform our society and make it more equal for everybody. So she's aimed to help a more diverse range of people see themselves as part of the conservation movement, uniting dozens and dozens of agencies, nonprofits, businesses, tribes. As part of that work, Annie developed and co-leads the Right Relations program, along with Redwood Research Group, to advocate for Native sovereignty and partnerships. There's more. Under Annie's leadership, Together Bay Area supports the Conservation Lands Network, a regional strategy that compiles an extraordinary amount of local data about Bay Area landscapes from about a zillion different sources into science-based decision-making tools. And let us all take a minute to just appreciate the cat herding that must take. Under Annie's leadership, TBA worked very hard to pass Prop 4 and succeeded. That is $10 billion for climate adaptation and resilience in California that we definitely really needed before the election, and now we really, really need. And finally, Annie also co-chairs California's statewide 30 by 30 Partnership Coordination Committee. So without further ado, on behalf of Bay Nature, I'd like to present the 2025 Conservation Action Award to a person who is a force of nature for nature, Annie Burke.
I'm usually in front of this room facilitating other people speaking, and it's very odd to be the one up here speaking for myself. Thank you, Bay Nature, so much for this award. And thank you very much to the people who nominated me. I don't know who you are, but I know you're in the room, and I really appreciate you so much. I want to congratulate Susan, Avro, and Mirella for their awards, too. It's a total honor to be in your company, so thank you. I want to thank my ancestors, my grandparents, my parents, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, and my cousins, all for their support and for being family. Yep. There we go. I want to thank John and Benny and Alex. Alex will watch this someday. He's back east at school. I want to thank my friends and colleagues and mentors, all of whom are here, or most of whom are here today. I am who I am, and I do what I do because of all of you. Growing up, I didn't think about the future much. I didn't think about who I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't really have a vision of what adulthood would look like. And frankly, I still don't. Instead, I feel like I live life like I'm traveling. I pay attention. I pay attention to myself and what's happening inside of me. I also pay attention to what's happening around me. I observe with my eyes and my heart and my head, my body. I'm curious, and in particular, I'm curious about people and groups of people. I'm curious about how things work and how they don't work. I'm curious about culture and values and belonging and social change. And I move myself towards the people and issues and work and places that mean something to me. The things that call me, that give me energy, and the people that make me feel like I'm at home. Also, if there's dark chocolate, I move towards that too. This approach to life is one thing that's contributed to me being here in front of you all today, and I want to share a few experiences and some of the people that have also shaped who I am and what brings me here. My life started a few miles from here at Alta Bates Hospital as Lorna Lindsay and Gaylord Burke's first kid. To be Lorna Lindsay's kid means that curiosity was the air that we breathed. Rachel Carson's A Sense of Wonder was our family Bible. We spent a lot of time on Mount Diablo, in Tilden Park, and at Pescadero State Beach. And we heard all about her job as a science teacher and her work in the science room at Wildwood Elementary School. My professional life started after college at Kaiser Permanente in their national headquarters in Oakland. I spent 4 formative years working in an internal consulting group for 2 brilliant women, June Gunter and Tula Osojoglu. Together, we partnered with teams and departments in Kaiser to transform how they worked. From June and Tula, I learned how to help groups adapt to change, both from inside and outside the organization. I learned how to design meetings for participation and inclusion and productivity. They taught me how to design a good process and trust it to achieve what I wanted it to achieve. They encouraged me to get a master's in organization development, which I did, and I wrote my thesis on how we can look to natural systems, and in particular complexity theory, to understand organizational change. Those 4 years and those 2 brilliant women laid a foundation for everything I've done since. From them, I learned how I think. My life as a mother started with Alex's arrival in 2006. And since he's not here, I'll say it got even better in 2008 when Benny was born. But as I held little Benny in my arms, I found myself panicking at how I and my generation were leaving this planet to him and his generation. I love being a mother. Because of them, I decided to shift my career to working for climate solutions. Over the course of the year after Benny was born, I went on dozens of informational interviews. I met with dozens of people, talking to them about their life paths and their work, and eventually I met Bettina Ring. Bettina was the executive director of the Bay Area Open Space Council, and we met at the original Pete's right up the street here in Berkeley. She hired me 5 days later. It was March 2010. I was hired to help diversify the Open Space Council's revenue and to build out a more robust, more inclusive convening program. I had experience with the convening and the fundraising, but I didn't know a thing about the world of land conservation and parks. I learned all kinds of things on that very steep learning curve those first few years, and frankly, still learning a lot. Words like conservation easements and riparian corridors and ecosystem services, words I'd never heard before. I learned about open space districts and land trusts and working lands and equitable access. I was surrounded by people who were working tirelessly and patiently, thinking about their work on the timeline of an oak tree. I met people who love the Bay Area just as much as I do. I found my people, and I found the work that I wanted to do. The Bay Area Open Space Council fell apart in 2018 for reasons that organizations fall apart. And when I was asked if I would lead the organization through the hard times into a new version of itself, I couldn't help but say yes. I tapped into everything that June and Tula had taught me. That period from 2018 to 2019 was one of the most challenging, most fun, and most rewarding periods of my life. We engaged over 200 people in co-creating what this regional coalition should be and do for the next 25 to 30 years. One highlight of that year was the planning committee. I saw firsthand how the conversation changes when you change who's at the table. And that group of people was brilliant, and there's a bunch of you here who were on that planning committee. The Open Space Council became Together Bay Area in early 2020, and I became the full-time executive director. And now here we are in 2025, 15 years after I met Bettina. Today, Together Bay Area is a regional coalition of organizations collaborating for climate resilience and equity. We are a large and diverse and growing community of people who care deeply about healthy lands, healthy people, and healthy communities. I want to celebrate some of these people now and some of the things that we've done. I collaborate with an amazing board of directors, and many of you are here today, and several of you have been up on this stage to receive the same award. And I work with the best team of staff and contractors. I love working with them, and several of you are here. They're smart and funny and joyful and silly and very tough. Together, this team, this board, our members, our collaborators, we are transforming how work is being done. We're catalyzing more land conservation and stewardship. We're bringing significant funding to the region. We're changing the systems and cultures to make Native American land return happen more easily. We're serving as a regional voice. We're changing who is at the table and how decisions are made. We're hosting inclusive and inspiring and now sold out events. We're working hard to leave this region better than when we found it, better for Alex and Benny and their generation. And we're showing up every day as whole, creative, and resourceful human beings. I am who I am, and I do what I do because of all of you. To say that there's a lot going on in the world right now is an understatement. There's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of change. It's scary, and it's sad, and it's painful. It's horrifying. But the world isn't ending. There's no time for the doom and the gloom. In all of that uncertainty, there's also possibility and potential and opportunity. There are new relationships and new ways of being, new ways of working, and there's healing. There's healing possible. We don't know what kind of awesome is just around the corner. Last summer, my sister friends had the idea, my sister friends, Emily Corwin and Tanya Lowe, who are both here, had the idea of fishing shopping carts out of the mudflats of the East Bay. Over the past 6 months, we have periodically gotten on our paddle boards when the tide is around 3 feet to collect carts and other assorted things that enter the bay from the urban creeks. And we load it all up onto our paddle boards for a more proper disposal. Before we head out, we don't know what we're gonna find, we don't know what we're gonna experience, and we don't know what we're gonna learn. And each time, it's been nothing but joy. We've hauled out shopping carts, bowling balls, planters, furnaces, Pikachus, Hindu god statues, and so much more. We've learned about the tides and the currents and the winds. We've had a deep sense of awe for the murmurations of shorebirds. We have felt the peaceful stillness of the glassy water on clear, windless days. And we have a deep satisfaction for leaving this place better than we found it. And we have laughed a lot, uncontrollably, easily, often. My mom tells me that you make your own luck, and that we create our own future. The way I do that is by paying attention, being curious, and being with the people and the work and the places and the issues that mean something to me. I am who I am, and I do what I do because of all of you. Thank you for this honor, and thank you for being on this journey with me.
All right, what a day, my friends, what a day. So on this day that we're celebrating 4 of our local environmental leaders, now it is my great pleasure to help us keep this party going and ask you to invest in this community by making a donation to Bay Nature. So the reason why we do this is because, as you all know, Bay Nature is a small nonprofit publisher, and for 25 years, while we have been producing Bay Nature magazine, the world has gradually stopped paying for information. That's why last year we launched our new membership program that combines our award-winning journalism with live events and online seminars to bring those stories to life. So, like Victoria mentioned earlier, we're not just writing about sperm whales. We're hosting a talk connecting you directly with the researchers. We might just take you out on a boat to go see them for yourselves. The insight driving these changes in our organization is that all along, you weren't just subscribers to a magazine. You're a community of learning and engagement exploring Bay Area nature. And amidst today's national division and distrust, it's clear that we need each other more than ever. So we want to invite you into a bit of a conversation that we have each week. You don't know it, but Victoria and I get together every Friday afternoon. We talk about the future. We talk a lot about you, frankly, and how we're going to serve you and feed you and nourish you on the work that each of you are doing. And so we want to invite you a little bit into that conversation. We're going to come up here together, let you know what's on our minds, let you know how we're thinking about all of you, how we inspire you, how we meet this moment together. You're going to have to, it's a little bit of a thing. We usually do this over Zoom. So you're just going to have to kind of suspend your disbelief for a moment. But I think you'll get the idea. Victoria, would you come on up? Okay, so first, we should just spend a little bit of time talking about how this is going to work. Everyone just relax for a minute. We make this a lot of fun. You're going to see exactly how your contributions can help us do what we do, and we're going to have a great time while we do this. So I read once that the key to great fundraising is reciprocity. We had this great idea where we were going to put a bag of compost under everyone's chair, and it was going to be this great like Oprah moment where it's like, you get compost, and you get compost, and you get compost. But the cleaning bill would have been ridiculous. So we'll just start by saying that truly this is a community. And if you're joining us here for the first time and you're not already a Bay Nature member, when you leave today, you will be. So that is our gift from us to you. And just welcome. Welcome to this community. We're really happy to have you here. And so when we ask you to donate, what we're really doing is asking you to invest in this community, everyone in this room, our 7,000 members outside of these walls, the 50,000 people who read us online every month. So, show don't tell, right? What I'd like to do, I have all these prepared remarks, and I'm going to throw them away at my great risk. Because this morning, as I came in, I found this card on my desk. So if you want to know what you're really supporting today, this is what you're supporting. This is literally dated March 25th. So, dear Bay Nature, I'm writing to thank you and the staff and volunteers at Bay Nature for the outstanding work of your 3 decades. Our household has been subscribers, gifters, and benefactors for most, if not all, of Bay Nature's existence. We've always appreciated the fine, scientific, environmental, and community work that is the standard at Bay Nature. Whether it's educating kids and adults, publicizing the good work of others in environmental fields, or advocating for creatures large and small, we applaud you. We enjoy every issue of the magazine. As curious amateur naturalists ourselves and lovers of everything outdoors, we read about the things we love every time we pick Bay Nature up. Thank you, and please carry on. So that's what this is all about. Okay, so our goal is to raise about $25,000 this afternoon. It sounds like a big number, but I think we can do it. We're going to have multiple options. You're invited to donate wherever you feel comfortable. Even the smallest donations make an impact, as we'll show you. And there'll be opportunities to give at $1,000, $500, $250, $100, and $50. You each have on the back of your programs a number, that's your paddle. And so wherever you feel moved, we'd be grateful to receive your gift. You just raise your paddle. We have members of our team who will collect those amounts. And then you're welcome to check out and make those donations as you leave this afternoon. I want to recognize one special person in particular. Each and every year, our Master of Ceremonies sits here to my direct left. I'd like to introduce you all to Jorgen Hildebrand, 98 years young. Jorgen has been a friend of Bay Nature for 25 years. And he comes each year and brings with him a challenge, which is to match him in this fundraising effort. And so Jorgen today has brought a pledge for a $5,000 gift to Bay Nature. So I want to invite you, Jorgen. Would you please kick us off this afternoon by raising your paddle, sir? Wonderful. Thank you, Jorgen. Jorgen, thank you for your friendship. We sure do appreciate it. So there you go. We're on our way. So the first opportunity this afternoon is at the $1,000 level. And what we'd like to do is just talk with you about the bedrock of this place, of Bay Nature, which is our key differentiator. It's our dedication to quality environmental journalism. And so Victoria, I want to ask you if you might offer, what is the importance to you these days of local environmental journalism?
Thanks. I want it noted. I have no notes. What I have been thinking about lately, and for a long time, honestly, is the uniqueness of Bay Nature. I have been a journalist for 30 years. I've worked at a lot of publications and media outlets. I have a lot of friends who are working at them, and there is literally nothing like Bay Nature. Although, Larry Orman, where are you? Larry, okay, Larry just passed off a magazine of another organization that is maybe like Bay Nature, but I will read it and fact check that assumption. So that exactly. What we are doing here is so unique, and it is easy to take for granted. We have been around for 25 years. That does not mean that we will continue to be around. This is a community-supported and built publication and set of experiences. So the role of journalism, community journalism right now, any journalism right now, is obviously it's a challenging time. It's hard to speak up, and it's probably going to get harder to speak up. And journalism, the press, is built to absorb that, right? We are well experienced in how to protect people's privacy, identity, when that needs to happen and when it's appropriate. So we are here to listen to what's going on and get it out there, and that's really important for people not to shut down and get quiet, but to speak up and have your stories and your experiences out there. So I think environmental journalism, more important than ever.
Thank you. So when we ask for your gift at the $1,000 level, it's to support directly our strength, our resiliency, our capacity to keep providing this type of journalism to all of you. You should know that more than 80% of our budget is personnel, the people literally who create everything that is Bay Nature. Last year I made a mistake. I didn't ask, this is the $1,000 level, and I didn't ask for if there's anyone who is interested in giving more than $1,000 to Bay Nature. There was. And so I'm going to shut my eyes. I'm curious whether there's anyone in the room who would like to directly match Jorgen with a gift of $5,000. Is there anyone there who wants to do that? Is there anyone hiding out there? Okay, well, I'm glad I asked. I'll ask a second question, which is, I wonder whether there's anyone out there, two people, who might want to come together to match Jorgen at $2,500 apiece. Is there anyone there? Wow, 3, fantastic. How about that? Thank you. Wow, I have goosebumps. Thank you. That's wonderful. So okay, so that's That is $12,500. I wonder at the $1,000 level how far we can get. Jorgen gives us money because he wants to multiply it and see it grow. I wonder how close we can get to matching that $12,500 with $1,000 gifts. So at the count of 3, if you're interested in supporting Bay Nature with a $1,000 gift, would you please raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, go. Woo! Wow. Thank you all. I see you all. I know you all, and that's really wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go to the $500 level. So this is really exciting. So last year, we stood up here and said, listen, we've got these baby plans to double our events program. We want to double the number of events that we produce. At the end of the day, we actually quadrupled it, 4x, right? So last year, believe it or not, and Leah's standing, where's Leah? Right over there. That's Leah, our events coordinator. So Department of One, last year, we registered nearly 3,000 people for 50 events in 6 months, in July, from July to the end of the year, right? That's 50 chances for 3,000 people to build connections and exchange ideas. So I'm really curious, Victoria, for you as a journalist, how do live events factor into your storytelling?
So I think this is one of the coolest aspects of Bay Nature. People think about Bay Nature as sort of, there's National Geographic, and Bay Nature is sort of like a local National Geographic. Well, the truth is that National Geographic, it's really hard to go see and touch and experience what you read about. Bay Nature, it's all right here. And so these events, we're thinking about this in terms of we're giving you something to read so you can really see the complexity of a situation. Then we're giving you an opportunity to talk about it online or in person with these events where you can really, right, reading is not being in nature, it's the opposite of it. But we actually want people to get out and engage with nature and with their community and build those connections, because it's really community that carries this forward. It's not just being a single person who knows about something, it's knowing about it together. So I think it's extraordinary that Bay Nature has pulled off this growth in events.
Okay, so at this $500 level, what we're really asking you to do is help Leah out. She could use the help. And so this events program to this point, we've gone to 50 events, largely through the efforts of a lot of volunteers who are contributing their time and expertise to lead hikes and to lead these online talks that we've been talking about. And what we'd like to do is as we really firm up this part of our program at Bay Nature is begin paying those people. And so if we're able to get 10 donors at $500, that will cover an entire year of honorariums and permits for the events that we plan to produce over the coming year. We want to get up to 75 events serving more than 5,000 people in the next year. So if we're able to get 10 folks at $500 a piece, you'll know and we'll recognize you as such that you're making that possible. That's what it all takes. So at the count of 3, if we could get folks at the $500 level, we would sure appreciate it. 1, 2, 3, go. Holy cow. 1, 2, 3. Outstanding. We'll give you a moment. That's really wonderful, you guys. We're going to be able to do this. We're going to be able to do this. Right on, right on. Okay, right on. Wonderful. Okay, so the $250 level. So last year we sat down together and we let you know that one of the pieces of feedback that was so important to you was reaching the next generation. Makes a lot of sense, right? So with the money that we raised at the $250 level last year, we launched something that we call Bay Nature in the Schools, right? Overall, the seed money that you provided at last year's Local Hero Awards, we 4x'd it that fall. We raised $20,000 that fall for our schools program. And what that allowed us to do was get Bay Nature into more than 200 schools across the Bay Area, and so that every public high school from Santa Rosa to Santa Cruz this academic year has Bay Nature in their library, which is great. Just last month, Jillian, one of our fellows, went to a school in Oakland and led a writing seminar with the girls' school there. And Bay Nature is deeper into about 10 classrooms across the area where the teachers use Bay Nature as a teaching aid. The second part of your feedback was you said how important it is for you to have Bay Nature in the hands of people who are making policy decisions around the Bay Area. And so what we'd like to ask you to do this year is that gifts at the $250 level are going to provide the seed funds for our fundraising this fall. And our intent is, the keyword is every again, right? Our intent is get Bay Nature into the hands of every city council member in the area, every public agency in the area, folks who manage water and lands, but folks who are making decisions at the local policy level so that they can make decisions with nature in mind. And so I want to ask Victoria, from your standpoint, you're talking with these folks each and every day. Why is it so important for Bay Nature to be read by local policymakers?
You know I'm excited for this one. Well, right, that's the basis of journalism. We are reaching out to communities, hearing about their experiences, reporting on them in in-depth, complex way that who doesn't then want their public official, their decision maker, anybody in power to be equally informed about the issues they care about and the depth and the complexity of those issues so that they can make, hopefully, a fair compromise.
Okay, so this is another opportunity to multiply your impact, because like I said, we'll fundraise for this program in the fall. And so if we're able to get 10 donors at the $2,500 level, we want to use that as the seed for matching funds to raise another $20,000 this fall. So if you're able to support us at the $250 level, that's what we'll be using. That's what we'll be using the money for. So might I ask, are there folks in the room? Do we have 10 people who can help us with a gift at the $250 level? Yeah. Great, thank you. I see you, thank you. Look at you all go. Look at you all go. Okay, so we're almost done. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you. Our last two opportunities, I think, are our most fun. Every year they're our most fun. These are gifts at the $100 level and at the $50 level. Before I offer you this opportunity, I want to tell you a couple of things that are true, okay? The first thing that is true is that Bay Nature produces events and experiences and emotions like this. This is a photo of a hike we took up at McCormick Ranch last fall, right? So that is true, And the reason why this is possible is because the second thing is also true. We assemble our own IKEA furniture, okay? This is what makes the other thing possible, okay? Is every dollar that you give to Bay Nature, we stretch absolutely as far as we can, okay? So that's why I say, if you're able to join us at the $100 level, at the $50 level, that is impactful. We will use those funds to great effect. 2 years ago, Stu Weiss, what did we fundraise for? A printer. That's right. 2 years ago, we asked for money to replace our printers, absolutely. You should know that our two printers, you should know that our printers are alive and well. They continue to make us happy. Last year, guess what? $3,000 we raised at the $100 level and the $50 level. We told you we wanted to renovate our office for the next generation of hybrid work. So take a look. This is what our office used to look like, right? Probably compares favorably to the college newsroom you worked at, right? $3,000 later, this is what our office looks like, right? Right, pretty snazzy, right? So listen, if this magazine thing doesn't work out, you can hire us to do your office renovations, okay? But the way that we did this, the staff painted the walls, right? The staff assembled the furniture. The staff did all of this on nights and weekends. And so, trust us when we say that if you can help us out at this level, it's going to be fantastic, okay? So, gifts at the $150 level, here's what we want to do this year. We want to replace these office chairs, all right? Can we get these office chairs out here, please? You should really see what's going on and understand why this is so important. Yeah, Dan recognizes those chairs. Okay, so we want to let you know, look at this one. This one's very short, right? It doesn't rise. This one is wonderful if you want to sit back, but not much else. And this one I call the mushroom because it's really good for like crash test ratings, but it weighs about 1,000 pounds, okay? So if you're able to help us out, if we can raise about $2,500 at this level, all of these chairs are going to go away, and we will literally think about you every time we sit down. It's going to be great. Okay, so do we have a round of gifts at the $100 level to help Bay Nature replace its office chairs? Woo! We are so incredibly happy to have your support. We are so happy. You have no idea how happy we are to have your support. All right, now the last opportunity, and this is really just about getting to 100% participation. We want everyone in this room, by the time we go upstairs and have cocktails later, to be able to say that we all said yes today to Bay Nature, that we all are in this together. So if you're able to help us with a $50 gift, that'll get us there, and we would be really grateful for that help. Are there any folks in the room who'd like to help us finish off the office chair project with a $50 gift to Bay Nature? Fantastic. So this is the point where Victoria and I will click that little red end button in the bottom right-hand corner of our screen. We thank you so much for your support. We're going to keep at this. We're going to look forward to getting together in the future, letting you know how it's going. Thank you for the support. Now we'll return you to our program. Thank you very much.
All right. Mireya Ramos grew up in South Central LA, where the noise of helicopters and cars constantly filled the air around their home. Nature felt like a luxury. Parks were few and far between, much less an open space or preserve to explore. Their parents from El Salvador, though, brought in guayaba trees, banana trees, and other plants from their home country to fill their yard, attracting critters that awed Mireya. They were able to enjoy the little patch of green in their yard as a refuge, and the only one on the block. But throughout school, Mireya didn't believe that science was for people like them, for people from low-income and immigrant families. But they didn't let themselves believe that they were able to perform a life of service. The college that they went to, Sam Houston University, had a statue in the middle of campus. I've never been to campus, so I'm not sure exactly where it is. And on the statue, it said, "The measure of life that one lives is it's in the service that they provide." And while school didn't have many field trips to green spaces, or they didn't have mentors or people to encourage them that STEM was something they could do, it wasn't until after college when Mireya rediscovered their fascination with nature on hikes from Texas to LA. And with Mireya's reinvigorated love for nature, they joined the California Conservation Corps as a backcountry crew member. Carrying a heavy pack without much of the proper backpacking gear, they often found themselves at the back of the crew. But they found a sense of connection to nature and the people around them. There were people in the Corps who also felt like misfits too, but wanted to perform a life of service. And as they continued to work on trails for the U.S. Forest Service and National Park Service, they noticed something in particular. They rarely saw people of color like them in positions of leadership or even just hiking along trails. But they did meet young high school kids in camps and outdoor programs and were awed by their sense of enthusiasm and curiosity. In these kids, Mireya found a way to change this trend. So they joined the Sonoma Land Trust 5 years ago in an effort to reach more young people from diverse and low-income communities, using their own El Salvadorian background to help students cultivate their connection with nature. They work in the details to make sure everyone feels included, from turning on Spanish music in car rides to passing out Latin American snacks. As a bilingual youth project manager for the Trust, they create inclusive programs and provide translation so that Spanish-speaking students can feel at home too. They have been teaching wetland ecology to 3rd and 4th graders through the Land Trust's field trip program and the Conservation Council, a yearly cohort of 26 high school students who conduct soil and wildlife research. The students who have participated visit preserves across Sonoma County to watch birds, identify forest species, collect soil samples, read scientific papers, and are able to write their own too. There is a new generation of more diverse scientists, researchers, and nature writers, and Mireya is leading the way to help create that. I'm pleased to present the Environmental Educator Award to Mireya Ramos.
I'm gonna caution you, I'm a chillona, which means I'm a crier. Oh, don't look at me. It is such an honor to be here with all of you today. And I have to say that younger me never would have imagined this. Never thought that I'd be a conservationist or a youth development professional. I'm trying to fight away the tears. Hold on. I didn't know that most of my story would be told, but I have pictures to go along with the story. So I want to start off with having y'all think. At some point in your life, you probably wanted to hear the words, "I see you. I got you. And I'm here to help." I know I definitely have. Sorry if you get contact crying. And so the story of my alma mater, Sam Houston State University, I didn't really think that I'd be in Texas as a high school student, much less college student. I thought I'd be in LA most of my life. But moving to Texas gave my family a really big opportunity to be able to spend more time outdoors, have a bigger backyard, and be around foliage. And so I ended up at Sam Houston State University, passing by our courtyard with a signage, the measure of a life is its service. And I kept seeing this at some of the darkest times in my life. I can't see my siblings They're up there, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, you know. I've also been the biggest challenge for my parents. Sorry. Because I did things that I took on challenges that I don't think they wanted me to. But they moved to the US out of El Salvador for a future, not just for them, but for their children. A future that did not include being scared to walk outdoors. And as I talked more with my parents and I wondered why were they so scared when I'd go out backpacking by myself? I mean, it can be scary, I guess, but to me, it sounded really cool. I'd still do it from time to time. But I learned from them that they were scared because in our beautiful jungles in El Salvador, you disappeared and you didn't come back. So they invested in me and my siblings, left everything they knew, our ancestral lands filled with wonderful volcanoes, tropical fruits, and of course, ever-abundant waters, including my favorite, thermal, hot springs. But this is my neighborhood. This is where they raised me. And my dad, he grew up in the countryside of El Salvador, farming with his dad, and has a deep love for plants and animals. My mom says I get it from him. And my mom is also a self-proclaimed city girl. But she astounds me at how many plants she knows. And the knowledge, the wisdom that my great-grandmother shared with her about the plants so that she knew how to put tobacco on a bee sting to make it stop hurting. And the yerba buena that we'd put in tea and in our food that always helped us feel better when we were sick. So they made so many changes for us. And for our future generations within my family. Up there I have one of my grandmothers, my dad's mom, and some of my siblings. I am the third in 7 kids. And out of us right now are 5 that are living. And I think about all the moments that we've had together, being able to be outside as kids. No, the great open spaces weren't close to us. But my parents, they sure as hell, can I say hell? Yeah. They sure as hell tried their damnedest. I'm pushing it, and my mom's probably laughing up there. They tried their damnedest to get us outdoors. And I think one misconception that people often have about Latinos and what I've heard in conservation movement, or while working in conservation movement, has been, I really wish that Latinos had a connection with nature. I really wish that they would spend more time outside, that they would go hiking and backpacking. And little do you know, we're raised with a connection. It's in our genes, it's in our blood, and our parents pass it on. So before I knew what Leave No Trace was, my mom taught me to always have a bag to pick up the trash wherever we were at a park, whether it was Parque de las Rosas or a Parque de los Patos. And if you're Latino, you probably have one of these in your neighborhood too. They're very common names. I do not know the names of these parks, like their actual names, but forever they will be Los Parques de las Rosas y el Parque de los Patos. But this is, I think I was 5, and my first time in snow. And I was mesmerized. My dad and one of my tios would get together and like plan these trips for us. And despite it being cold outside and snow on the ground, what did we do? We packed vainilla and milk and sugar, and we made raspados. It's still never too cold for me to have frozen treats. Yeah. So for my colleagues that know me, they haven't seen me bald. And I don't think they've seen me with a pack this big before. But this was my introduction into backpacking and camping, and I had no idea what I was doing. It was through the Backcountry Trails program and the mentorship I received there and the support I received there that made me surpass my own limitations that I put upon myself, whether it was my mental or physical limitations. I still love using crosscuts. Ooh, you can make them sing if you have the right partner. It turns out finding the right partner in everything that you do is important. And so there too, I found community. And I climbed some of the highest mountains that I could because I told myself, why not? Why not? And that's because my crew lead told me, you could do whatever you want. You're the little one. It's okay. You'll make it. See, it was through the power of mentorship and everything that I've done that has gotten me to climb these high mountains, whether they were emotional, physical, because I've actually went up this mountain here in the Trinity Alps. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Or living in the woods for 6 months and cooking for a bunch of hungry trail workers and throwing random parties when I could for them. Learning how to take care of mules and how to ride them and how to pack in the desert. Turns out the Sonoran Desert can be brutal sometimes. Or, of course, our lovely Bay Area, where its coastline continues to astound me. You see, through the guidance and the support that I've received, I've been able to become a different Mireya. I literally spent hours looking at these dragonflies molt. But like them, I removed the shell of myself with every challenge I took, allowing myself to find a new opportunity, to find a new me, to make a difference. Because I continued to think about what is the measure of my life. It is service. And so, yes, my service began when I was doing youth programs over at Saguaro National Park, and maybe even before then. But with my family, it was inviting my youngest brother to a youth crew that I was leading. He had never been backpacking before or camping. And I said, come on out, what else are you doing this summer? Well, then he ended up camping, and he was supposed to stay with me 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks. And this little man, I'm still calling you little man. He's almost 21, and I helped raise him from baby. But when he's asked why he's gotten into the degree field that he's studying, he points to this moment, a moment of inspiration, of change, of mentorship. He's currently studying electrical engineering in renewable energies and sustainability. I'm honestly super proud of all of my siblings because every time I challenge them, they say, okay. Reluctantly, but we've gone to beautiful places. And they'll sit in the back of trucks with me because they love it, because I love it. In El Salvador, of course, where it's legal. And my family continues to grow from those my parents birthed to my partner, now fiance, and my parents-in-laws that are here, and all the adopted children that my parents take on because they go on family vacations with us too. And my family continues to grow. At Sonoma Land Trust, I've been able to grow a sense of belonging. See, DEI is not enough. And as a person of color, I don't want to think that I've been hired, as the term is, a DEI hire. And so for me, when I walked in to a white-collar office for the very first time, scary and daunting, and luckily, I had a supervisor that took everything on with an approach of mentorship with me. And when I was going through imposter syndrome multiple times, it's been 5 years, and I'm sorry I still cry in your office, Neil. But because it never goes away, because we don't always feel like we're worthy enough, or because it's so different, and sometimes we don't have that sense that we do fit in, because in most of life, we've all, at some point, wanted to fit in. But with the kids that I get to spend time with, I get to help them blow past their own limitations that they put on themselves through the beliefs that are passed on to them about not being enough and about not being able to read, whatever it may be. And I get to share with them special moments that help them see themselves in nature, whether it's journaling outdoors or setting up wildlife cameras. So my supervisor pushed me when I first started at the Land Trust. I'm not a science person, never thought I would be. Here I was trying to teach students how to conduct research with wildlife cameras. But he helped me build my confidence, which then helped me build the confidence of students. And with them, yes, I was learning a lot at first. But I still learn from them and my direct report, Kylie, and whoever comes across my path, because I forever will be a student. And so this used to scare me. But I love it now. You should see me with spreadsheets, my God. And running around outside, taking a break from the heavy mental work to get the healing that nature provides us. The benefit of nature that should be equitable, that everyone should be able to have. And because people have invested in me, I choose to be of service to others and invest in them. I keep a mentoring mindset that I am not the best, that I don't know everything, and that I'm gonna learn from you just as much as you're gonna learn from me. And that it's okay not to have the answers to everything, and it's okay to cry. And it's okay to also be scared. Keep the curiosity, keep the humility. And support one another. Give compassion. Because when you're giving compassion and you're supporting each other, guess what? You're more likely going to keep your staff. You're more likely going to have better relationships when you're actually investing in people and doing it for them. And so I'm asking you all today to consider, who have you invested in and who has invested in you? Be that catalyst for change. Because once you start investing in others and show that you care and show that you have compassion, guess what? You'll be inspiring more to do so. And in my short life, because I'm only 32, I've learned that I am happiest when I am in service of others. When I give my time to others to see them grow and put their needs into perspective. And so you will find that when you're supporting your community, the people around you, you will be happy, you'll find a purpose, and you'll be able to have a measurement in your life that is meaningful to you. Get that sense of fulfillment like I do when I look at students in their moments of awe as, yes, they've seen what this data is telling them now, or when they find out that, yes, they can also be able to touch beautiful animals while we're out tide pooling, especially the anemones that squirt, the aggregated anemones. Take those moments. Remember to be of service, and don't take yourself so seriously. Here's my last picture, and Gina, I hope you love this. Thank you. Sorry, I'm still here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanvi. I'm one of the other journalism fellows at Bay Nature with Jillian. Yes, and I'm going to change the slide. I'm really excited to introduce our last awardee of the evening, Avro Shah. Avro is a sophomore right now at Palo Alto High School, and it's impossible to summarize everything he's done since he started fighting for nature in elementary school, so I'm not going to give you his resume. But from lawsuits to cleanups to campaigns to yoga, he's done a lot. Over the hours I've had the privilege of spending with Avro, what I've learned the most from is the way he approaches his work. I got to spend some time walking the Baylands with him, and I was impressed by the fact he'd seen a Ridgway's rail there, which every birder knows is a hugely rare sighting, so very exciting. But I also took a lot away from just seeing the way he looked at the Baylands. He spent the last year fighting to protect those unique wetlands from the expansion plans of the Palo Alto Airport, and walking with them, I saw how much Avro loves the nature there and the ways he saw it, but I also saw how much more he recognized about the place, from the way he empathized with the pilots who flew out of the airport, the way he thought about how the communities who live nearby were impacted by those pilots, from the way he saw why the preserve mattered to everyone who worked and played there. He saw the complex systems that bound everything together with such clarity, recognized who it impacted, and then saw where he could work to change it. What exactly will happen next with the Baylands isn't clear yet, and I asked Avro if he's going to take a break after they wait to see what will happen. He told me no, and he told me about a pipeline that's happening in Southern California and how he's thinking about getting involved in advocacy around that. High school wasn't very long ago for me, and I know most students in high school are very concerned about what's going to happen to them. and what's going to happen, where they're going to go to college and what they're going to do. But Avro is laser focused on what will happen to everything around him, whether human or plant or animal, in increasingly chaotic climate futures. I think everyone here can recognize that caring about nature can often get pretty lonely. Not everyone gets excited about a bird or a plant. Not everyone thinks about climate change all the time. And there's a lot of pressure on young people to be every single solution. But Avro has a talent for seeing what brings people together, even if it's not immediately obvious. He meets people where they're at and finds those points of connection. Even when he's talking with a pilot who may not disagree with him on a lot of things, both of them care about what happens to their families in the future, right? He listens, and then he figures out what to do next. So yeah, Avro's work is impressive, but I'm even more excited to see what he does next. And because of that, I'm really excited to present this year's Young Leader Award to Avro Shah, which comes with a $500 grant for professional development, supported this year by Friends of Edgewood Natural Preserve. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my fellow tree huggers, nature lovers, and environmentalists. I would like to tell you all a story today, a story of how I have come to realize that when something you love becomes threatened, your fight to protect it comes not as a choice, but rather as an instinct. That when what you love is threatened, you put aside your personal reluctancies and inhibitions to speak up for what you know to be true and right. That's the story of why I am in front of you all today, because I can say with an absolute certainty that I have learned that we cannot take for granted the natural world that surrounds us. You see, I'm the son of immigrants who grew up in the polluted cities of India with next to no access to nature. But when my parents first came to America, they were taken aback by the great abundance of towering redwood trees and breathtaking waterfalls, and they strive to share what they never had with their children, with me. And so I've had the great fortune of having parents who would drag me kicking and screaming onto long and destinationless hikes. And while I may have not enjoyed the hiking aspect at that age, I've always found immense value and appreciation for the beauty of the outdoors. And these days, I can proudly say that I find myself going on these same hikes, but this time out of my own volition. But when I was just 6 or 7, I learned from my older sister that these beautiful places that I felt so connected to were under attack by a major crisis that threatened not only our environment, but also our livelihoods, our futures, and our planet. And that crisis is none other than the climate crisis. But you would be ignorant not to consider that while, yes, the direct effects of climate change are devastating enough by themselves, the ability of climate change to catalyze and exacerbate pre-existing environmental and human crises is perhaps a more pressing danger. From immigration, where it's estimated that there will be 1.2 billion climate-linked refugees by 2050, to the extinction crisis, where plants and animals are dying off at a faster rate than the dinosaurs were, with one species extinct every 20 minutes. And let me tell you that once these animals, plants, and ecosystems are gone, they are gone forever. And they are not coming back, especially if we don't speak up. And if we don't learn to speak up, bad people will continue to destroy and pillage and plunder this planet for her resources to sell for so-called profits, with no cognizance of their wide wake of destruction and no accountability for the losses that the world is forced to endure. If we don't speak up, our complacency and indifference will continue to be exploited by those who only seek to enrich themselves off of widespread suffering. But you see, that's where people like me and people like you learn to come in. To say no. To say that there is no price they can put on this planet, and to say that we won't let them ravage the treasure of the air that we breathe, the water we drink, the food that we eat, and the world that we live in. For the last 8 years, half of my life now, I have dedicated myself to the conservation, protection, and stewardship of our planet. I am what people call a climate justice and environmental activist, but I hate those descriptions. Because when did we decide that supporting a life-sustaining planet become activism? When did wanting to give our children a future equal or greater in potential than the one that we have now become activism? When did saying that we shouldn't be destroying the planet, our only home, for the sake of enriching a few select people, become activism? Tackling climate change isn't radical, it's just common sense. But I must admit that I have entered this fight not through the perspective of human rights as many do now, but rather through an environmental lens. Because at a young age, I saw the devastation of the California droughts and knew that unless we do something about climate change, natural disasters would continue to be exacerbated at an exponential rate. And given the climate-intensified disasters that we see around the world these days, from the devastating LA fires to Hurricane Helene, it's overwhelmingly evident that climate change is no longer an issue of tomorrow, but rather an issue of today. And given how these climate-intensified disasters cost the global economy $38 trillion in 2024, it's incredibly concerning that some of our greatest fears of climate catastrophe have come true, while people attempt to argue that climate change and climate action is bad for the economy. But I have not and I will never give up, because to me that's an act of cowardice, and that's something that I cannot condone nor respect. So I have fought for my generation's right to an equal future and gone head-to-head with 2 presidential administrations in the courts as a plaintiff in the federal climate justice lawsuit Genesis versus EPA, fighting for our basic right to a life-sustaining climate. I have met with congressmen and senators on sunny days in Capital DC, compelling them to support specific and feasible solutions to avoid the clouds of climate catastrophe lurking on the horizon, and I have persuaded school boards and city council members to support effective climate solutions at the most local levels of governance. I have fought in solidarity against dirty pipeline expansions that violate treaties with indigenous nations, and I have campaigned to raise awareness on the connection between the big banks and the fossil fuel industry. I've spoken in front of thousands at schools, venues, and conferences across the world, seeking to rally support for climate action, as I hope to do with you all here today. And I know that we can win, even in the light of seemingly insurmountable challenges, because history tells us we can, but so does my experience. This past summer, in the town that I live in, the Federal Aviation Administration, which is under the thumb of corporate lobbyists, unfortunately, instructed the Palo Alto Airport, the 19th most lead-intensive airport in the nation, to make renovations that would include plans to expand into the adjacent wetlands preserve to accommodate larger, louder, and more lead-intensive aircrafts. I must note that 90% of the bay's wetlands have been developed on or severely degraded as a result of human activity. But in Palo Alto, because of the hard work of courageous leaders in the 1960s who stood up for outdoor spaces in a time when development was an unfortunate norm of our civilization, we have preserved our share of the wetlands. And so when I learned that our environment was under attack, more so in my backyard, the only choice I had was to speak up. And working alongside regular folks, from restaurant owners to neighbors to bird watchers and so many more, I successfully brought together a diverse coalition that stretched across communities and causes, across political divides and ideological barriers, with us all agreeing that we could not afford to expand the footprint of this airport. So we mobilized thousands to take action, online and in person, to sign petitions and write letters. But as strong as our campaign was, I was worried. I had become, unfortunately, accustomed to losing. And I had seen countless examples, like in San Carlos, where a few years ago, despite a strong community-backed campaign, local leaders fell prey to the influence of corporate lobbying and failed to implement a strong and sensible curfew plan to the local airport. So I worked hard because I knew we could not afford a loss. And on September 16th, 2024, with hundreds of us packed tightly into City Hall, including some of the former council members who fought to protect the Baylands in the 60s, we demanded that the Baylands be left untouched. And the City Council, swaying heavily in our favor, effectively shut down the special interests' hope for expansion on that night. but it was not necessarily a win, but rather a step in the right direction. Until just a few weeks ago, where the city of Palo Alto omitted an airport expansion from their 2025 agenda, which is the first time I was really, really, really happy to see that win. That means that the Baylands are safe for now because of regular people who came together and spoke up for what they all treasured, valued, and loved. But let me tell you that for regular people like you and me, this kind of work is far from easy. And more often than not, when fighting for something that you love, you might find yourself pushing against a brick wall. That no matter how hard you try, it refuses to budge. I am someone who has lost 10 times more than I have won, but if there is one thing that I hope to leave with you all today, it's that when we find ourselves fighting what feels like a pointless fight, when we find ourselves pushing against that brick wall, know that if together we push hard enough, we may just leave an indentation. But in doing so, we set an example for posterity and show the world that we will never be complacent. We set the stage for future generations to take up the torch of environmentalism. And that, my fellow environmentalists, will have to be enough. Thank you.
Oops. All right. Hi, everyone. It's a tough act to follow. All of these, well, everyone is a tough act to follow. It's especially tough. I hope, like me, you all feel inspired and feel, I mean, at least I can speak for myself. I feel a lot differently right now than I did when I came into this room. As everyone's mentioned, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of really hard stuff to deal with. And today, we got to hear from people who are taking their strengths and their skills and the things that they love, and using all of that to protect the places that they care about, whether it's a creek in their backyard, the Bay Area, collectively, the Baylands, places that are dear to people in Sonoma County. And we've heard stories about what it takes to do that and what it takes to do it well and how difficult and challenging it can be to be your whole self in that space. And we've also heard how important it is to create the spaces where everyone feels welcome and included and that they belong together in this movement, in what we're all doing together. Because there's no way that we can do this work alone, and there's no way that one type of person can do this work. And that's one of the things that I loved hearing today from all of the heroes, but also that I love so much about Bay Nature, because Bay Nature is doing that, is providing a platform for that, for us not only to read incredibly well investigative journalism, to tell stories about what's happening in our world, to bear witness to that. Not only is Bay Nature doing that, Bay Nature is providing a space for us to come together, to read those stories, whether it's alone or collectively, to share those stories with our friends and families and coworkers, but also to be together in those spaces and to find that joy and wonder and awe in nature together, and to build that community. Because it's not only the nature, right? It's the community. It's being together. And we heard that from all of our heroes today. And that's all of you. We also did that all together as we collectively raised some money to keep this work happening. And it's those things that make Bay Nature super powerful, right? The storytelling and the community. And we're facing a lot of things right now. And those things that I just described, those are forms of resistance, being together and telling the truth. And we couldn't do it without all of you. And we couldn't do it without the amazing staff. So thank you. Let's give ourselves a last kind of collective round of applause. So just thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Bay Nature. Please continue to do the work that you're all doing. And find community together to keep doing that work. And know that Bay Nature and that all of us in this room are like together in that work. So now, in one last symbol of togetherness, we're gonna take a picture, all of us together. And so what I would like everyone to do, oh wait, the photographers just left the room. Hold for one sec. He's getting the tripod. Okay, so what I would like you to do, so let me tell you what's gonna happen. Ideally, everyone who can, please stand up and we'll take this photo. You don't have to, you can get started now because it might take a minute to set up. Then we're all gonna take this photo. After the photo is done, that concludes this part of the program, and we will head upstairs to have some drinks and conversation and food.